Hey guys, and welcome back. In today's tutorial, we are going to learn how to crochet a drawstring bag.
Sigourney, how's your macaroni?
Now, this is future me, after I've already spent 5 hours filming this tutorial and 6+ hours editing the tutorial. For some reason, my brain was thinking, oh, all of these bags have the same base and just different faces, so it'll totally work. So I can totally put them all together in one video, and it's not going to be long at all. It's definitely not going to be over an hour. Boy, was I wrong. After all of that, I decided to break it up into 2 parts. So in this first part, I'm going to show you how to crochet the drawstring bag, and that is the bag itself, the drawstring, and the bag strap. So that's all we're going to be covering in this video. But in the next video, I'm going to teach you how to make each of the character faces. So if you want to learn how to make all 4 of those bags, you will use this tutorial to create the bag portion, and then in the next tutorial, we'll talk about all of the facial features for each character. First, let's talk about the materials you will need for this project. If you're creating any of these trick-or-treat bags, you will need black, white, green, orange, and gray as your colors. But if you're just making the drawstring bag, feel free to use any medium weight yarn with any color. You will also need a 5.5mm hook. Now these bags do require working with double strands, so if you've never crocheted with double strands before, don't worry, it's really not as hard as it sounds. But if you need a little bit extra help, I have a video tutorial that I'll link right here that includes 11 tips on working with multiple strands. So I think that would be really helpful for you to check out before you get started. If I am only using 1 ball of yarn, which you only need 1 ball of yarn per character. So whenever I'm using one skein, I don't want to purchase a second one just so I can pull from the center of both. So what I like to do is pull from the center and pull from the outside. And I hold both of those together as I crochet. I haven't had any trouble with tangling or anything like that. So that's how I'm going to do it today. So to crochet the bag, we're going to hold 2 strands of our yarn. If you're creating the pumpkin bag, you will use 2 strands of orange. For the witch and the Frankenstein bags, you will be starting with green. And for the Jack Skellington bag, you will start with black. Now, create a magic circle. If you're unable to create a magic circle, I have a tutorial linked in the description that will help. And chain 2. Now place 10 double crochet into the center of this ring. And remember that I'm speaking in US terms, so a double crochet in the US is a treble crochet in the UK. If you're unable to create a magic ring, you can always chain 3 and place 10 double crochet into that first chain, the 3rd chain from your hook. Now pull that tail from the beginning tight and slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round. So that chain 2 at the beginning does not count as a stitch. And you should have 10 double crochet in your first round. Now chain 2 and place 2 double crochet into that very first stitch. And if you've never crocheted in the round before, that is called an increase. So go ahead and increase into each stitch around. So 2 double crochet in each stitch around. Now at the end of round 2, you're going to slip stitch to the first double crochet. And you should have 20 double crochet in this round. Now chain 2, place 2 double crochet into that very first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into the next. 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 double crochet into the next. Now just repeat that pattern around. 2, 1, 2, 1, and I will meet you at the end of round 3. At the end of round 3, slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round, and at the end of round 3 you should have 30 stitches. For round 4, chain 2, place 2 double crochet into that very first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. So 1 double crochet and then 1 double crochet into the next. So you have 2 in the same and then 1 in the next, 1 in the next. Now 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and then 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Now again, we're just going to repeat that pattern around. So 2 double crochet in the next stitch and 1 double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And I will meet you at the end of round 4. At the end of round 4, you will slip stitch to the top of the first double crochet of the round, and you should have 40 stitches in round 4. Now chain 2 for round 5. Place 2 double crochet into that very first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. Now 2 double crochet into the next stitch, and then 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and just repeat that around. And I will meet you at the end of round 5. At the end of round 5, slip stitch to the first double crochet, and you should have 50 stitches in this round. And it might start to curl up like this, but that's okay. Now round 6 is going to be our final increase round. So we'll start by chaining 2 and place 2 double crochet into that very first stitch, and then 1 double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. Two double crochet into the next stitch, and 1 double crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. And just repeat that around. Now remember that all 4 bags are worked up this same way. You'll just be using different colors. So right now with the orange yarn, we're working on the pumpkin bag. If you're working on the witch or the Frankenstein bag, you'll be using green. And for the Jack Skellington bag, you will be using black. Now at the end of round 6, you're going to slip stitch to that first double crochet. And at this point, we have finished all of our increase rounds. So this is going to be the base of your bag here. And I know it doesn't look too big, but I promise once we create the sides of the bag, it turns huge. So at this point, the base of the bag should measure about 7.5 inches. Now, if your measurement is a little off, it's not a big deal, so don't worry too much about it. Now for rounds 7 through 21, we're going to chain 2 and place 1 double crochet in each stitch around. At the end of round 21, you will slip stitch to the first double crochet of the round, yarn over, cut your yarn, and pull that strand all the way through to tighten. For the pumpkin bag, you will use orange the entire bag. For the Jack Skellington bag, you will use black for the entire bag. For the witch bag, you will repeat the same process that we did with the pumpkin bag, except with green yarn, until you reach round 15. So round 15 is the last round using green. For rounds 16 and 17, you will use black. For round 18, you will use orange. For rounds 19, 20, and 21, you will use black. And for the Frankenstein bag, you will repeat the same pattern that we did with the pumpkin bag up until we reach round 18. So round 18 is our last round with green yarn. For rounds 19, 20, and 21, you will use black yarn, and that's for Frankenstein. Now we're going to make the drawstring for the bag. This drawstring is the same pattern for each bag. We're just using a different color depending on either your preference or what the pattern states. For the pumpkin bag, we're going to use green. So first, create a slip knot, and with your 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, we're going to chain 100. Now I know that this is a lot, so if you want, you can also create 98 foundation half double crochets. If you've never tried foundation crochet stitches, I have a tutorial that I'll link in the description. But if you don't know how and you don't care to learn, just create this chain of 100 and half double crochet into the second chain from your hook and all the way down. Once you make it to the end, just tie off your work. You don't have to leave a long tail because all we're going to do is weave in these ends. And there you have your drawstring. Like I said, all of these drawstrings are created the same way. For the pumpkin bag, we created a drawstring using green. For Jack Skellington, it was white. For the witch, it was black. And for Frankenstein, it was gray. So go ahead and take your drawstring and your bag. And you can use a stitch marker to do this, but I'm just going to use my crochet hooks. So we're going to identify the center 8 stitches of our bag. So here I've placed both of my hooks with 8 stitches in between them. Now what I'm going to do is take out my hook and insert my drawstring in between those posts and pull it until there's just a couple inches left here. So now you're going to take your drawstring and weave it around every 4th double crochet. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to insert my drawstring again here and pull it through. And you're just going to repeat that around. So again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And after that 4th one, we're going to insert our drawstring between the posts. So repeat that all the way around until you reach your marker. And while you're weaving in your drawstring, it could twist around. So just make sure you untwist it as you go. And again, this doesn't have to be exact. This is more of just a guide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 9 in the center. So again, no big deal. So here we have our drawstring bag. So to close your bag, you're just going to pull these strands tight and you can tie them so that it stays. And then just untie and pull it open to open the bag. Pretty nifty. Now the strap of the bag is the only thing that I've changed from the original design. Previously I had 2 backpack loops and they weren't measured correctly and it was hard to resize it for your specific child because all children are different. So I got rid of the 2 straps and turned it into this 1 strap. That way they can just throw it over their shoulder when they're ready to go. So let's first talk about how to make this strap and then we will talk about how to sew it on. With 2 strands of yarn using the color that you want for your bag, create a slip knot leaving a long starting chain, and you're going to chain 7. Now half double crochet into the 3rd chain from your hook, and each chain down. For row 2, you're going to chain 2 and half double crochet in each stitch across. You should have 5 stitches on each row. The chain 2 at the beginning does not count as a stitch. And then for row 3 and on, you're just going to half double crochet in each stitch across. The reason why I decided to do it this way is because it's sturdy and you can make it any length you want depending on your child. I first tested this out with my 2-year-old and I made his strap about 17.5 inches long. and that fit perfectly for him. So if you have a child who is around 2, that this would be a good place to start. But if you make this strap and it doesn't fit your child, you can make it longer if it's too short, and you can make it shorter if it's too long. So I'm going to make this one about 17.5 inches, and then I'll show you how to attach it to the bags. Once you reach the last row, you'll yarn over, cut your work, and make sure to leave a long tail so that you can sew it on. So you should have a long beginning tail and a long ending tail. Now let's talk about putting it on the bag. So I have 2 markers here. This is the back of the bag. I'm laying it flat, and I put 2 markers, one here at the top and then one here at the bottom. I thought that it would be more fun and easier to carry if we sewed on the strap diagonally. So I marked this stitch here, which is the 3rd row from the top and just over to the left side. We're going to take the right part of our bag and sew it on, and we're going to sew it at a bit of an angle. So the first part around that first post. And then you'll want to go through the next stitch, and you can go through the next post and just continue sewing. And you can take off the marker. I didn't take off the marker because I'm crazy. Make sure that when you're sewing this to the bag that you're only going through the first half of the bag and not both. And then you will weave in your ends and tie in your work. Now, at the bottom of the bag, I marked round 6 all the way at the right side of the bag. Now, making sure that your strap isn't twisted, go ahead and do the same thing and sew your strap on so that it's just slanted slightly. And that's how you sew on the strap of the bag. Okay, so that's it for today's video. We learned how to crochet the drawstring, how to crochet the bag, and how to crochet the backpack strap. In the next tutorial, we will talk all about how to crochet each of the character faces. I'll see you in that one.